the drop coverage, and why is Boston sticking with the drop coverage and allowing Steph to just come off the screens and shoot freely? Boston's hoping, they get over the top and contest from behind, but it hadn't been working. And I don't know if it's because of the whispers and what's been saying they changed their coverage, or they felt like they needed to slow Steph Curry down and gamble, hoping they could, everyone else wouldn't play well. Well, what happened is they step up. They not allow Steph to get clean looks, and now Klay Thompson goes off. Now Draymond Green gets driving lanes. Andrew Wiggins is allowed to do what he do. You see there, Al Horford, he's up. You're contesting. It's great. They're making sure it's tough for him, but you get 15 points from Gary Payton. So now you've allowed others to have solid games to make up for the big number that you just give up from one player.
Amari, what's your message to the Celtics after a game like this where you shut down Steph with a great game plan, but everybody else beats you and then you can't close the deal in the fourth?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult right now. I mean, obviously Steph Curry is the main attraction, right? But one-on-one defenders got to be tied into the game, because if you're doing a good job with Steph Curry and you allow the other guys on the Golden State Warriors to have a great game, then now you're putting yourself in a bad position. So one-on-one defense is going to be key for those other players around Steph Curry to guard. You have to guard, Klay Thompson. You have to guard Andrew Wiggins. You got to guard these guys one-on-one to take them out of the game, because your point of emphasis is so focused on Steph Curry.
Alan, is this series over Thursday night?
Yeah, if I can quote and imitate one of my favorite dunkers of all time, it's over. It's over. Right, VC,
over.
you remember those days.
Yeah.
This series is done. I mean, it's you can see it in their faces.
Remember.
But that's how we quote it. That's how we quote it.
All right, one thing before we go, specifically in this game, it is Andrew Wiggins. We're talking about a guy that talked about potential, never met that potential, traded, of course, by the Cavaliers when the opportunity to be in the first-round pick, going to the Timberwolves here, and then coming here and changing his, I think, mindset and his maturity and his growth. 26 points, 13 rebounds. What does this performance tell you specifically, Vince, about what the Warriors culture is all about?
Well, I think it's been understood what the culture is about, and you kind of see it come to fruition with a guy like this. And this is a cool opportunity, because when we always talk about for weeks and since the series started, who's going to be the number two guy? Klay was struggling a little bit. Nobody has ever mentioned Andrew Wiggins. He stayed the course. He's been their second best player. He's been solid. He's just been doing his job. And he says, I'm just doing my job, doing whatever they ask, whether it's defend, rebound, or score. And he's been doing just that, playing solid defense, making things tough for Jason Tatum. And when you're a guy that can as a two-way player doing what he's doing, you're a huge asset to them. And kudos to the Golden State organization for one, going to get him, and for two, developing him. And I think that year when Golden State was struggling and he was kind of their go-to guy, that set them up for this moment to have a player like Andrew Wiggins doing what he's doing on the stage.
Alan, I find that interesting, too, because when the trade actually happened originally with the Timberwolves and D'Angelo Russell, a lot of people thought at the time the Warriors are going to use Andrew Wiggins as a trade chip down the road. His ability to adjust where he's the number one guy in Minnesota, or even the number two guy, to maybe be the number 3, 4, and 5 guy that we've seen, that mentality change. What have you noticed about his growth?
Well, it's a maturity in his game now, because him understanding that it's not just about how many points you get and your shots and all those things, but actually he had to adjust even more this year when Klay came back and then Steph was playing full time.
Yes.
Because he had been used to being more of a focal point, especially that first year when everybody was hurt. And now the harder part is understanding how you could still impact the game and affect the game without being the primary and even the secondary a lot of times. He's had to adjust his game, and that's coaching, that's buy-in. And buy-in happens when you're in a place where you trust what's going on around you, when you've seen the impact that kind of coaching and development has had on other players, and you say to yourself, I want to be part of this. And that's exactly what he's done. And he has emerged throughout this playoffs to this point now. So this is almost like the pinnacle of really where he has, or where they have seen him go. So now, can they finish the job? Can he raise a trophy? Can he be a big part of a championship team? He goes from a guy that some people thought might have been a number one pick who was a bit spoiled and overpaid to a guy that is a champion. He's one game away.
It features Game 5 of the NBA Finals Series tied at 2 apiece in San Francisco. It's now a 3-game series. Steph Curry, quiet night for him. Not the same for Draymond. There's the aggressive attack. 8 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, setting the tone early on. They were up by 11 at the break, I should say, after one quarter. Then the Celtics and those turnovers. 18 in the game, 5 by Jaylen Brown in transition. Steph facilitating. Andrew Wiggins, how about 16 points in this one in the first half? Warriors up by 12. Then the Celtics coming back and answering with Jason Tatum. Big third quarter. They explode for 35 points. They erase a double-digit deficit, and they're feeling really good on the road. 7-0 coming off a loss. Meanwhile, what's wrong with Steph Curry? 0 for 9 from 3. The block there on the break, and Grant Williams, the N1 finish. Curry upset with himself. That snaps a NBA record of 233 games with at least 1 3. Jordan Poole got the 3 right there to close out the third quarter. He had 14 points. And the Warriors and that vibe, just in time, they're feeling really good. Because entering the fourth, close game, and then suddenly the Celtics, they vanished on offense. The next 8 minutes, they had just 5 points. Can anybody help Steph Curry on an off night? Yeah, Klay Thompson, 21 points, 5 triples, and then Wiggins. Monster performance. It was the Andrew Wiggins game. 26 points, 13 rebounds. Celtics, again, they struggled in the fourth quarter. First time they lose back-to-back games in the postseason. Steve Kerr, 1 win away.
We have a chance. We got two cracks at getting 1 win. But we also know how difficult it's going to be. So nobody's celebrating, but we're excited to be in this spot, and we want to take advantage of it.
Obviously, we're all frustrated with tonight a little bit, but even prior, quarters and games. And so our message is take it one at a time. We've been here before and did it against Milwaukee, and let's bring it back out to the Bay.
Well, Jason Tatum, he finished a familiar trend this series of starting strong and then running out of gas. He's shooting 24% in the fourth quarter this series compared to a whopping 56% in the opening quarter. How about last night when they needed him the most? He was 1 of 5 in that fourth quarter. And again, now the Celtics facing elimination game 6 tomorrow night, I should say Thursday night on ABC. There are a lot of storylines to get to here, and let's bring in our guys, our analysts here, Vince Carter, Amari Stoudemire, and Alan Hahn. This team's on the ropes. What happened, Vince, in this fourth quarter where it felt like the Celtics took over in the third, they're feeling good, they have the momentum, and then the offense just vanishes, led by Tatum?
You're right, Kevin, a 35-point third quarter. I said, oh, man, Boston Celtics have now conquered the third quarter, which has been their Achilles heel. And then the fourth quarter happens. And I thought, just talk about Jason Tatum for a second. I thought at times he settled for jump shots when, he should just drive to the basket. And then I thought he was hunting for fouls, trying his best. You see here, settling for the jump shot instead of trying to get into the basket, get a little closer. I know the percentages are what they are, but it's just your approach, and his approach was kind of settling and then trying too hard to just draw a foul, get a foul, instead of just get a basket and let the play happen or play out as it may. So, and then obviously Jaylen Brown struggled. So usually when Jason Tatum was struggling, you had Jaylen Brown to really help, and they both struggled. When you have 18 turnovers a team, we know what happens to the Boston Celtics. But when your 2 stars and the 2 guys that have the ball in their hand all the time have 9 of those 18, that spells trouble.
Amari, when you look at Tatum, 44 minutes. No one's logged more minutes than him in the postseason in these 23 playoff games. It feels like that Heat series, 7 games, that Bucks series, 7 games, is taking a toll. Are you sensing that fatigue's the storyline here for Brown and Tatum in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you're playing a lot of minutes, obviously, because you got to carry your team and win a championship, right? This is what's required of you. And the legend Vince Carter is correct. I feel like Jason Tatum is looking to draw fouls more than he should be. Just look to score the basket. You've seen every coverage. You've seen what teams are trying to do. You know the double teams are coming from. The adjustments that the Golden State Warriors have made, you've already seen all the adjustments. So now mentally prepare yourself for what you're going to see out there in the basketball court and attack them as such. And I think Vince is spot on with that. Like, you have to stop searching for for foul calls and be aggressive and look to score the basketball and try to take over and dominate the fourth quarter.
When the Celtics commit at least 16 turnovers this postseason, they're 1-7, Allen. Last night, 4 turnovers in that fourth quarter, none by the Warriors. Is this their undoing this entire series? They cannot control the basketball late in games?
Yes, and that's a credit to the Golden State Warriors defense, too, which is something that the Celtic players and also Ime Udoka did point out. That what the Celtics are doing defensively is a reason why they're turning it over. You know, they're not being careless. They just don't have anywhere to go. They're getting bottled up. Brian Windhorst did a terrific story on that on ESPN.com this morning. I was just checking through it, and it was going along with what we were talking about earlier in the show. But when it comes to winning time, it's time for Jason Tatum. I mean, all the fatigue excuses and any of the other excuses we want to make for him, we'll make. He shouldn't. Because we remember, as he referenced, Game 6 against the Bucks, he and Giannis went toe-to-toe, and they had to win that game, and he was phenomenal with 46 points, answering Giannis. Every time Giannis was trying to end that series, Tatum said, oh, no. We're going to keep playing. We're sending this thing back for a Game 7. He's got to have – it's been 10 games. It's been a month since that game. He has not been the same player, and if he wants to put all those pelts on the wall, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Jimmy Butler in the Heat defense, and now the Golden State Warriors – well, you want a seat at the table? That seat's taken right now, Jason, unless you come up with an epic performance at home in Game 6.